It may initially impress with its slick visuals, fun music choices, and a solid cast, but as you get further and further into the film, you'll realize why Don't Worry Darling misses the mark. It has an identity crisis for 2 hours. None of these external mechanics of storytelling matter when the story those pieces are in service of is one that causes immense self-sabotage throughout its messy script. The writing is certainly the worst crime that the film commits. It contradicts itself and lets its themes fall flat to ensure nothing of value can be taken from the movie. There are many wonderful nuggets that lose meaning or impact within this insubstantial movie. Spoilers for Don't Worry Darling. It sets up this secluded part of society which strives for a greater cause, kept secret from the women of the town. It is presented as a value-driven cause, and one which the leader, Frank, is open to having challenged because he knows conflict will only grow his beliefs stronger. He believes in the power and necessity of sacrifice in order to achieve meaning within a lost world. He says he's been waiting for someone like Alice, someone who will try to uncover his secrets and challenge his philosophies. Alice decides to rise to the challenge because she comes to distrust the establishment. At the heart of the movie is the relationship between Alice and her husband, Jack. Jack joins the organization in the name of giving them the perfect life, but he refuses to tell Alice of what his job entails, which strains their relationship and only makes her question everything more. She just wants to be with him and wants to leave this place, but he's unwilling to give up the perfect lifestyle that this job offers. In the latter half of the film, it is revealed that this entire existence is in a virtual reality landscape that people escape to find an ideal life in an otherwise ruined world. The values of Frank and his organization are at first ambiguous, but when we learn that this entire ecosystem is simply based upon escapism, it makes his character make zero sense. The act of escapism is to run from having to face problems or a value-driven life. It is an act of fear and laziness, yet all of his speeches at the beginning of the film imply that he wants to be challenged and that he is living for some great sacrificial cause. This conflict between Frank and Alice is left unresolved because as we progress into the movie, it simply doesn't fit into the story anymore. This is just one of the many examples of the internal logic of the film betraying itself and spoiling the entire experience. I'm not going to be laying out every example in the movie because you can find those for yourselves, but here are a few more examples. The process of Alice coming to mistrust the community takes up the entire first half of the film by events triggering memories of the real world and her past life to resurface and cue her into the reality of the situation. At one point, she gets re-brainwashed and plugged back into the community, but the process by which she wakes up again is almost instantaneous for no justifiable reason other than the fact that they can't spend another hour showing the exact same process all over again. The end of the movie has characters snapping out of the dream for no logical reasons other than the fact that the characters need to at that moment. The film is centered around people wanting to revitalize their relationships and live in a perfect reality. But then, out of nowhere, all the women betray their husbands for no real reason. For the majority of these characters, there is no real logical cue for them to wake up, nor was this an idea that gels with the rest of the experience. Yes, Alice wants to escape, but that was always with Jack, and there's even a character that talks about how she chose this life of escapism intentionally, but in the last 10 minutes this feminist message is ham-fisted in and I don't really understand it. There are mysterious elements introduced into the universe like an airplane crash and earthquakes that amount to nothing in the end. The ambiguity doesn't do the movie favors either, because it gives too many answers to be interesting but too few answers to make sense. The logic and design of this entire digital server doesn't make any sense. Characters log in off of the server. There's a clear leader of the software in Frank. There are even maintenance bots seen throughout the film that clean up messes. Characters are shown waking up in various places after logging back into the server, so it's implying that you can effectively spawn wherever you want within the server, which makes sense why these service bots would show up out of nowhere at points. But then, why didn't they spawn in a place where they could catch her later on? When security comes into question, it doesn't make sense why they don't have a firm grip on the situation. If this film were overhauled to a single purpose in a more focused manner, these concepts and presentation ideas could be much more satisfying. This entire thing could have been a game set up by Frank to turn Alice and Jack into martyrs to strike fear into the hearts of his followers and rekindle their allegiance, but that doesn't match up with how the twist takes the story into escapism. It could be a film like Brazil, where the character wakes up to the dark realities of the world and is hopelessly doomed to it, being in a depressing tale of failure that points out the horrors of the world, thus allowing the protagonist to be a martyr on our behalf, inspiring us to revitalize a movement and a belief system. or at least cause an awareness. The film insists the main character win though, so at least provide an actual satisfying victory where she gets what she wants after escaping all the horrors of the world. By the end of the film, Alice escapes, but we can't even be sure that this is a true victory because of how muddled all of these ideas and motivations become. There are great elements throughout the film. I love that Jack has a song he chose for Alice which plays throughout the fake reality because it represents the ideal life he chose for them. I love some of these presentation choices. Ultimately though, the writing fails all of those nuggets of goodness and leaves a mess behind. Nothing of value is offered from this film in the end because it can't make up its mind about what it is. This makes the film feel boring and lifeless in key scenes. There's a lot that could be said about how the film is predictable and tropey as well, but I really wanted to point out how confused it is. Before you worry about stereotypes and tropes, make sure that you're at least making sense. This is the first step to making a satisfying story, which Don't Worry Darling is not. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it or found it informative, give it a like and subscribe. If you thought it could have been better though, leave it a thumbs down so I know to do better next time. Thanks guys, I'll see you later.